Hello, guys. Welcome to Like a Podcast, episode 7, the podcast all about Yakuza. So that's the Like a Dragon series. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm on the edge of my seat. Introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new ranking of all entire Yakuza franchise, not including RGG Online. I have executed that one. It does not exist anymore. But I'll be ranking each game depending on how fun they are to no damage.
Right, Mr. Seat. What first got you into the Yakuza franchise, and what game did you start out with?
I got back into Yakuza when Yakuza 0 and Kiwami 1 weren't around, so the climate was a little bit different. It was actually kind of hopeless on the American front because it was mostly a series very popular in Japan, and in America it didn't get too much success. But the video which got me into it was Hyperbit Heroes Yakuza Your Next Favorite Retrospective, which covered every single game up to the Japanese release of Yakuza 5. Ishin, up to Ishin, because Ishin was out by this point, and Yakuza 0 is going to be out around the time of next year, and it's just a really interesting retrospective because from a perspective of a fan who played Yakuza 5 in Japanese because they didn't know if it was ever going to come out in English because it took like 3 years for it to come in English, and when it did, it was digital only. And from that video, I was inspired to get Yakuza 4. I borrowed my friend's PS3 to play it specifically, and then when I got halfway through 4, when I got to Tanimura's section, I found out that emulating the first Yakuza 1 game on PS2 was a lot easier than I expected, so I jumped on that. I beat Yakuza 1, Yakuza 2, I bought Yakuza 3, I beat that one, and then I went back, I started back my same save file with Tanimura, and I finished that one, and I continue on with the rest of the series, and well, that's that, and now I'm here.
Also, when did you start playing them?
That's actually kind of tough. I think I narrowed it down to like either 2015, 2016 because the time I started playing all the games was actually very convenient because by the time I finished like playing Yakuza 5, Yakuza 0 is going to drop like in a month.
Hmm.
So
So like it
2015.
was just convenient, like literally just one after the other, just boom, 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 and then Yakuza 0 in English. Oh my goodness.
So the PS3 titles, did you get physical copies for all of them?
I got physical copies for Yakuza 3 and 4. Yakuza 1 and 2, I would get physical copies 2 or 3 years later. So I do physically own them now, not at the time. Oh, actually, no, I don't have a physical copy of Yakuza 4. I'm misremembering that. I actually got it digitally on PS3. The reason I
Hmm.
actually got a physical of Yakuza 3 is because you couldn't buy it digitally on the PS3 store.
So
That
then, if you played if you played the Yakuza games before even Yakuza Zero came out, that's basically like around a time when like RGG games don't really have the best localization, and not to mention you experience the English release of Yakuza One, which is like has that really bad English dub.
Hmm. Yeah, no, the original Yakuza 1's English dub is pretty spotty. A lot of, like, I mean, I don't even know if the swearing's the issue. Honestly, the bigger issue I take with is just the audio editing in the Yakuza 1 dub. Yakuza 2 got to make the smart decision of not having that dub, and that translation is mostly solid aside from, like, one or two moments. Like, there's this one moment where he's talking with someone in a sub store, and he's like, women should only use a knife in the kitchen, and that's not really what he said in Japanese. That was, like, pretty silly. But besides that, that game had a solid translation. But then 3, the original like English 3 release removed like a lot of side content like mahjong, the club management. Thank goodness I hate it, but like it is content that used to exist in the original and it just wasn't in the English release. And like just the localization was a little bit like boring, like the way characters talk, it didn't really have much flavor. 4 actually made a really great like comeback. Like the original Yakuza 4's English translation is really solid for the most part. It has a lot more personality. They had like more time to work on it. They didn't remove like mahjong this time and or the club management. So that was really dope. Yakuza 5, the only issue with that translation is just it took 3 years and we had to like wait an abysmal amount of time. And it was digital only, and it's like the biggest game at the time for the PS3. So it's like, what the flip, dude? But then after that, Yakuza Zero did kind of like also start like a brand new initiative to be more focused on the translation, localizations, and all that. I would say for the most part, a good number of the localizations before did have a lot of good things going for them. But there's also a lot of spotty ones. And in the modern era, there's a really great patch for the original Yakuza 1 that restores like the script to its original Japanese with the same Japanese dub. And that's just so convenient for people who are emulating the first game. That just didn't exist back then, so it was a little rougher to get into it.
that's awesome. Also, I don't think you're alone on starting on 4 because I remember a year ago I learned that before 0 came out, most people started on 4.
Actually, why
Like
is
the Yami
that?
swag.
I mean, technically 4 in some aspects, it kind of is like kind of its own self-contained story until like it gets to the Kiryu part where it at least or somehow like connects Yakuza 1's plot to the 4th entry.
Can see that.
Genius. Truly genius.
One of the funnier things about
No, go on.
one of the funnier things about Yakuza 4 is that it has like retrospectives for the previous games. So you could like watch cutscenes for like Yakuza 1, 2, and 3 to kind of get caught up. It's not perfect, but it's kind of like a nice thing to have there. Or that might have been Yakuza 3 which had those. Or both. I don't know.
You know, honestly, the true question I think a lot of people like to know, where did you get the idea for your iconic name, I'm on the edge of my seat?
I love the movies. And I guess like while thinking about a name, I kind of like came up with a phrase which just kind of I'm on the edge of my seat. You know, if I'm watching your video, I'm on the edge of my seat here. And also another funny thing is I kind of had this habit of just making my names phrases instead of just like a standard name. I'm on the edge of my seat is a sentence. It's not a name, but I might as well make it a name. And the reason why it's separated in the middle is because on YouTube, when first starting off, you have to like make your name like a first and last name sort of thing. So I was like, yeah, I'll just split this phrase in two and just make it like the first name here, last name there. And some of the other specifics kind of escape me, and now I just kind of have it. This is the brand, this is branded on me. They sealed my fate with his name.
Well, I mean, hey, it kind of does roll off the tongue really well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
with a bit of
very
practice, yeah.
memorable.
Actually, while we were kind of just getting your render setup seat, I'm pretty sure you said it's because you also kind of just like want it to stick into people's brains. Like it's literally just a catchphrase for everybody to say.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's already an iconic catchphrase, and as a name, it'll probably like stick on more with people.
A very vocal stim-like energy, if anything.
All right,
Indeed.
everybody. Let's say the following. Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Hey, I'm off the edge of the
Hey, I'm
seat
on the edge
here.
of my seat here. More.
All right, so Edge, with how like you're like
What?
now
What?
you're basically. Oh God.
Why'd you call him Edge? Nah, bro.
Right,
Wait.
go on.
The green?
Okay, with how like. okay, with how like the Yakuza games has made you a Yakuza fan today, what would you say is like your favorite aspects of it? Like you genuinely enjoy.
I'd probably say that the Yakuza franchise is probably my favorite yearly franchise of all time, though I don't know if that's my favorite aspect because I don't know if I like the fact that the games are yearly, but the fact that a majority were yearly, it makes it like my favorite yearly franchise. Like the other ones can't really compete. Like I don't even know what the other ones are. Like what other competitors are there? Like Assassin's Creed, sports
Like-
games like Call of Duty. Like I think Yakuza kind of stands like heads and shoulders among like those games. But my favorite aspects, for one, it's just got a dope beat 'em up combat system that's like just perfectly in the middle. It's not too simple that you get bored of it. It's not too complex that like it overwhelms. It's just got a nice sweet spot where it's simple enough to pick up, but like hard enough where you have to like kind of be involved, know when to block, dodge, so on and so forth. It's not too much of a power fantasy, but it's still like super satisfying and like pretty like nice to just get hands on with for the most part. And just the exploration of the worlds, like the design of the hub worlds is just really engaging. Like getting to physically explore these places and just move around, and the density of the entire thing too. Or there's like an activity always like 2 steps away, 3 steps away. Just a combination of all that, and also just like the presentation of the story at its best. It's just really cinematic, like storytelling. Great characters. Like the protagonists of these games are always fantastic. They always have a great charisma, like vibe, and it's just like, very satisfying to embody them. To like just do the side quest, do the combat, and just move forward. Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of really great elements.
I mean, Yakuza series in general does really give off that very Japanese drama-like feeling in there.
That
Like
is
it's
true.
like you're watching like a TV show, except you're like playing it in real time.
And also probably one of the most famous like Japanese series of games which like portray like realistic people instead of like anime.
One of my fucking friends literally said Yakuza's anime, and I had to slap them on the head because they've never played a Yakuza game in their
You-
lives.
You think they're the kind of motherfucker who would just say, "What is Yakuza even about?"
Look, bro.
Yeah, because even the belt.
Look, bro. My friend plays the rival game, Persona. You know, it's fair game.
Oh, Banner!
Bro. Okay. Oh yeah. Two more. Oh yeah. Also, where did you get the idea to start no damaging? Like the most unnecessary thing you could ever do, and why the Yakuza games?
So my channel didn't start off with no damages. I actually just started off like trying to do some weird review videos. I did a really long ass like story summary analysis of Yakuza 0. A very early video, very early voice and editing. I edited on Windows Movie Maker. And as I just kind of kept going along, I'm pretty sure I did the Kiwami ramp video before I did any no damages. What inspired me to no damage was this channel I think called like Sephirom like 17. He did like a no damage video of Yakuza 3 on hard with commentary. And I was just kind of thinking like, why has nobody no damaged the original Yakuza 2? I think it actually was inspired by my Kiwami ramp video because like I was like saying the original Yakuza 2 is better than Kiwami 2. But as I look on YouTube, the only no damage videos that exist are for Kiwami 2, and it's like, how could this be? If the original, second game is better, why is no one no damaging? So I thought I might as well just step in and do it myself. So I kind of adopted that commentary style, did the original 2, and then from then on, I kept doing the rest of the series, and now we're here. Just to kind of give it like more exposure on some sense, or like to show its merit.
That's actually kind of cool to think there was just a prehistoric I'm on the edge of my seat. Anyways, you know what? See, so you know what? People came here for 1,000 likes on Twitter. The juice of the episode. Your opinion on the Yakuza games based on how fun they are to no damage. Are you ready?
Oh,
Indeed.
all right.
I hope
Now
so. My thoughts are a bit scattered, but they're locked in.
all right, so now let's start with Yakuza 0. What are your thoughts on that?
Yakuza 0 is actually one of the more frustrating games to no damage because it's too easy.
What?
Because I don't think, first off, the upgrade system just isn't like suited for like a comfortable no damage experience because once you get all the upgrades, you're just too overpowered. Like a lot of the coolest like combat tech abilities, like on just the way that the upgrade wheel is like kind of stacked. A lot of the coolest upgrade like combat moves, like it's like extra dodge canceling or parries, are kind of locked in the way of just like power upgrades. So in order to get like the coolest like combo canceling abilities, you basically need to get full power. And by the time you have full power, you can kind of steamroll the majority of the game. And there are things I really like about the Yakuza 0 no damage. For one, most of the boss fights are just 1v1s. Some of the other games, a lot of the boss fights end up being like very frustrating group fights. So it's kind of fun that like you just get to fight a cool boss one-on-one. Like just a lot of the other games don't do that. So it gets a point for me there. And the main combat system is really fun. I mean, Rush is awesome. Majima's like thug style is awesome. Really love playing around with those. But I'm gonna have to like detract some points because like it just once you're fully upgraded, it just isn't that fun to steamroll these boss fights. Like I'm thinking about like Chapter 6. I mean, I have to spoil these games at some point, don't I? Chapter 6 Kuze per se. Once you get to that fight and he has like the pipe, he only has like 2 health bars, but you're already like fully upgraded because like the business mini games are fully available to you at this point. You can like fully upgrade your upgrade wheel and you just steamroll him. I think the only real challenges I've come across with it are maybe like on legend mode because every time you die to a boss, I have to like redo the entire level. But even then, it's not the hardest thing in the world. Though the final boss did give me some trouble still. I'm going to put the Yakuza 0 no damage at B for now.
So all because you find the combat like pretty boring, since it's like compared to like other Yakuza games.
I don't know, just like I think like the
pretty
no damage
easy.
itch, which the other games have given me with like their difficulty, isn't fully scratched by 0, but there's a lot of like fun tech to like explore in the game anyways.
Honestly,
Also, see what does a easy no damage actually imply?
yeah.
What's easy about it?
I don't know, it's just that like I do 2 or 3 heat actions and the boss fights are kind of down for the count. And Majima has some pretty OP like abilities with Breaker. He's got like an infinite like grab combo he can do. It's not the easiest thing to set up, but like in terms of like input and like skill, it doesn't take like that much to pull it off. Kiryu, like when it uses like a single beast stomp, it like depletes like half a health bar. And yeah, you could install mods. I know a lot of no damagers do install mods in Zero, like a combat rebalance, so that they actually play a more challenging version where you don't deal so much damage. But I just can never feel asked to just go that far with the game. Like, just on its own, I feel like I wish the upgrade wheel would like let me ignore some of the damage upgrades and just let me get all the cool combat stuff. Some other games like are more suited towards that, and it does make like the progression like more fun in those.
The next game, Yakuza 1 for the PS2 and Yakuza Kiwami.
Oh, both at the same time. I'll start with the original Yakuza 1. I don't know if I really have too much interesting to say about the original Yakuza 1 because it is the very first game in the series. It is their first attempt at this combat system, and there's a lot that I really like about it. It feels very punchy to play. A good majority of the fights aren't too frustrating. They do feel like pretty balanced for where you're at. But also, I do feel like a good majority of the fights don't stand out too much to me. I think that's gonna like detract some points from the original Yakuza 1 no damage. It's mostly like a lot of group fights, and a lot of like the 1v1s are against people that aren't that memorable. There's a couple memorable encounters. One of them is memorable because it's so infuriating. There's the Arase encounter, which is horrible. And there's also the one with like the MIA, like the Secret Service people. That one's terrible. But the Shimano ones are awesome. Well, the first Shimano one is actually incredibly easy. I mean, it's a fun game, but like the combat system, you can't really do like too many crazy combos. I'm not the most crazy combo person, but I think the lack of options, it does get a little bit like annoying if you want to do like something stylish per se. The grab combos, like once you get that unlocked in your upgrade wheel, are pretty neat. Like the way you can like manipulate like environments, just using grabs to knock other enemies over, and just the way like you're. Oh, one of the more interesting things about Yakuza 1, I think this is something which I probably put as a positive is. Well, some people aren't going to find this a positive. I like how fast heat depletes in that. You actually have to like work to keep your heat bar up. You have to like, be constantly in combat. Like every single future game is a lot more lax about it. Yakuza 1 is actually punishing. Like it goes down as fast as like a Devil May Cry 3 style meter. Like it is pretty crazy. Like it's pretty demanding, but if you're playing good and you're just kind of like in the moment, like playing well, it's very fun.
Wait, what
But
about
overall, I wouldn't say it's like the most interesting combat system, but I do got to give it more points because it has this thing called the battle review. It's like the best version of the climax battles to ever exist in the franchise because it lets you replay every single boss fight in the game from a menu up to a mode even. Like it lets you like just play a mode if you choose one of like the battle review options. So I really like that, but overall, I'm gonna put the original Yakuza 1 at C tier.
C tier.
So no.
Dang, I
Wait.
expected like an A or a high B. C tier is crazy.
I mean, there's a lot which I really like about it, but I think the overall thing isn't the most interesting, but it's still really fun to play. Honestly, C tier, I mean, I'm still having a decent amount of fun. Like, these rankings are a little bit loose. I'm just kind of feeling them out right now.
Do you
But yeah, I
think
guess
so?
moving on to...
Wait, so no mention of the lock-in system for Yakuza 1, which I've heard is like really inconsistent. So like it doesn't really work at all.
It's a little slippery, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I did also hear that the PS3 HD collection made it a little bit more firm, which is fun. I think that's where I had most of my experience with Yakuza 1, so I had a slightly better lock-on experience. While no damaging, but the original game, it's a little slippery. Especially against some of the faster opponents like Majima. The Majima fights in the original Yakuza 1 I don't like. They're not the worst in the franchise, we'll get to that, but I think it's some of the worst fights. I'm not a big fan.
Do you think the PS2 gladiators are gonna come for you for this?
Used to Gladi. I mean, I feel there's some defenses for him in the
Yeah.
original game, but in terms of no damaging, I just either didn't know the right strategies, or he's just not the most fun fight to get engaged with. I mean, I didn't use the best strategy for him in my no damage video, anyways. But yeah, I guess moving on to Kiwami 1. So there's a lot of improvements with the combat system. Yakuza Zero's like systems are very fun. The way that you can like instantly switch between styles is really great. So that's all like fine and good, but I think yet Kiwami 1 is hampered by the fact that a majority of its boss fights suck ass. It's kind of incredible. I don't know. I mean, the
for
1v1s
real?
are kind of okay, but like I think there's fights which they took from the original that are actually worse in Kiwami 1. Like they're just more frustrating. Like I think
Is this a,
what was his name? Hayashi. I think Hayashi might be worse in Kiwami 1.
Doesn't he
Because has
literally
no
like
super
reuse
armor.
like Baba's
And
like full
and
moveset?
another thing which really brings Kiwami 1 down is just the reuse of movesets. Like, I'm just spotting like other movesets I fought in other games like from a mile away. I think it just kind of takes away from the unique vibe of the encounters. So that's already kind of dragging things down. Then you also have a lot of really frustrating group fights. Oh, the one against the Secret Service members is leagues worse in Kiwami 1 because like guns do a lot more damage in Kiwami 1 systems because they did a lot more damage in Yakuza 0 systems. But Yakuza 0 had the good grace of not filling rooms with 100 gun enemies. Kiwami 1 does not have that same grace. So I do have a lot of negative thoughts with like Kiwami one's like combat like encounter design, but the actual combat system has a lot of fun stuff to it. For one, Kiwami one probably has like the most fun tiger drop in the franchise. It's so like beefy and powerful, and also like just it can like damage anything. It's so easy to pull off. I really like Kiwami one's like tiger drop, and also Kiwami one has an absurd amount of tech because of its Godspeed mode. So whenever you're at full heat, the different styles all have like a different extreme heat mode sort of thing. When you activate Rush's extreme heat mode, your combat style becomes Nightcore. You go incredibly fast, and a lot of node damagers have found a way to abuse that to do the most insane combos you have ever seen. So that's super cool. The skill ceiling is absurdly high, but I'm not 100% a fan of it because it's also completely pointless unless you want to be stylish.
But compared to like
That's kind of the
Yakuza
thing.
Zero, you'd say that Kiwami One's combat is like much more fast paced and it's like more seamless to say, since you could like switch between styles without like having to like go through that weird animation that's like a cooldown.
Especially if you're doing Godspeed combos, like the sort of like reaction times you need to have and like the input like reactions gets a little insane. Honestly, it's a bit much for me. Like it's a little like beyond my skills, but it is very cool to see play out. But it doesn't really feel like it was intentional. I don't think like the developers intended you to do those sort of combos. I think Lost Judgment implements a similar sort of thing, but like in a way that just feels more natural to, or just an easier way to get into it. But overall, I'd probably put Kiwami 1 uh, in B tier as well. With Zero, I'm kind of tempted to put it in C tier because I don't like a lot of the encounters, but you can do a lot of cool stuff with Kiwami 1's combat system. I think it probably like deserves the B for now.
Yeah,
Also,
I mean,
does
For the
Kiwami
combat,
1
I probably put in a higher tier, just like no damaging and all that.
is the change heat system better, make Kiwami 1 better than Zero? More fun for the no damage?
I would have to replay Yakuza 0 to get a full opinion on that because I kind of like Zero's gear system. You know, just like forcing you to like keep a high heat to have like fast speed and like you know every time you do a heat action you have to like plan it out kind of on the fly. It kind of reminds me of Yakuza 1, you know, how fast heat can deplete. So I think kind of like Yakuza Zero's heat system, but I also do like that Kiwami 1 went for a more standard like just speed for everything. That's also fun in its own right.
and I also do find it weird, like how Yakuza Kiwami One is like one of those Yakuza games where the combat is good, but the bosses are complete ass. Like, not gonna lie, I wanted to fight those two dudes at the club. I mean, that is generally atrocious. Since
Oh,
the other
God.
just seems to
They
like
have an
grab.
atrocious move. Like I think one of them has a weird ass heat move that has like weird activation properties. Like I've been hit. I think it's like they can do a random grab that can like instantly go into a heat action. That annoyed me. Harry Buster Holmes also has like a really weird heat mode activation. He can do like a random heat action even if he's not hitting you. It's very strange.
Not to mention it, I'm pretty sure. Like, I feel like it was harder to like down bosses into the ground in Kiwami One. Like, they don't like get stunned a lot. To say.
There is a lot of super armor at play. At the very least, Kiwami 1 did have this very neat thing called it was like every time you hit a boss fight that was in the middle of an attack and had super armor, like they would flash white. And I miss that dearly. I miss that
Oh, that-
dearly. They
oh,
just
good.
it's gone after Kiwami 1.
Also,
What about-
go Yagamo.
What about like what about Kiwami One like being the one game where all the bosses like for some reason just stop fighting for once and then they just start healing up their own health bar?
I mean, on a new game, that's frustrating, but on New Game Plus, when you have all the upgrades, it's pretty manageable unless they're like in a group or something, because you can just do the overpowered like rush combo, delete most of their health, do a heat action, and like all anything they healed is pretty much gone. Once you know like the method, that's not too much of an issue. I guess on New Game, it was kind of frustrating. Some no damagers actually just let the boss fights heal to let the fight go on for longer. That's not me, but I understand like the logic behind it. Sometimes they want to like make the fight as epic as possible. It's kind of neat. I didn't find too many issues with it, but also it's been a while since I've done Kiwami 1 New Game.
Also, do you think Kiwami 1 has any outstandingly good boss fights?
I really like the final boss, despite the fact that the epic QTE sequences are kind of ripped off from Yakuza 5 and Yakuza 0, but it's still a really fun encounter. And I still like the Shimano encounters. Well, no, I don't like that he uses Mr. Shakedown's moveset, but the second one is still like a really epic like showdown. And with the original licensed music, I think it really like went well. The Arase fight is just better because it's the exact same as the first game, but you just have more mobility options. I mean, it's not really good, but at the very least, you have a lot more options to deal with. And while in Yakuza 1, you were a little bit more restricted. But it's basically just the same fight, copy and pasted.
So overall, you'd say like Kiwami 1, where would you rank it to say?
Oh, I put it at B. I'm going to put it at B for now.
No, that's actually really generous compared to like where you put the OG Yakuza 1, and so like about like the
Like
same
I was kind
level
of
as
thinking maybe
Yakuza
I would put
0.
Kiwami 1 in C, but I don't know. For now, it doesn't feel right, so I'm going to leave it at B.
So anyways, yeah, let's move on to the next game, Yakuza 2, the one game that isn't written by Vivzy Pop.
They do swear still a bit in the game, but at the very least, it's in Japanese, so you don't get to hear it.
Yeah.
The original Yakuza 2. It's a fan favorite for me, really like it, and it's also the first one I know damage, so it's got a little bit of sentimentality. That's not how I say that word. And I know damages specifically to just make Yakuza 2 no damages more popular, and I'd probably say I succeeded with that. Honestly, there's been a lot of people who have no damaged, well, not a lot, but there's been a good choice of no damagers who have gone and no damaged the original 2, and I've done it a lot more stylishly than I do. A lot of my strategies are very outdated. But off the top of my head, like Adi J4 has some good no damages of Yakuza 2, but even his are kind of outdated compared to some of the newer no damagers. I believe Rock M Drip has done a lot of really great Yakuza 2 videos. So I'd probably put Yakuza 2 like pretty high up just because I'm very sentimental about it. But the combat system is really good. It's very fast paced, very punchy, just great improvement on the first game. Boss fights, a lot of them do end up being group encounters, but there's some really dope encounters. Just Hayashi's amazing, Shindo's amazing. I love the Ryuji boss fights. The Tigers, don't love the Tigers. I'm not gonna lie to you. Tigers, not so much. The other fights, they could kind of like blend in with the other ones, but for Yakuza 2, I mean, I'm feeling pretty biased. I'd probably put that in A for now. It's a sentimental game for me. I mean, I also just really like the original Yakuza 2 a lot. Great music, great vibes. Oh, the music, Evil itself. Oh, that one rips. That one rips so hard. And
it's
for the
not
long
Kiwami 2.
battles, I guess like one of the things which I would have to like put behind, one thing which I'm going to take points away for Yakuza 2. I've been mostly judging these no damages on the boss fights, but in terms of long battles, the ways they're designed in Yakuza 2, you can kind of like run past most enemies and not fight them at all if you really want to, and you can still beat the levels. So that's like 1 point taken away, but I'm gonna leave it in A rank for now.
So overall, you'd say like the PS2 Yakuza games in general like feel much more punchier compared to like modern games.
The sound effects are crazy, especially for the stomping one. Oh my goodness, that was insane. Just so like wet and like smacky. Ugh.
Oh, that's one of the best parts of the PS2 combat. They have like very cheesy sound effects. They feel so good.
Honestly,
especially in the Hayashi fight, the sound design just goes crazy there.
Honestly, I wonder if the PS2 games hit harder because of their audio being a lot like not as high quality as the audio we get today. So it's like more crunch, kind of feel a bit more. It's just like louder, lower quality in general, you know.
So I guess moving on from the original 2, I guess there is Kiwami 2.
Oh, boy,
the famous.
Oh yes.
Wait.
The beta. Wait, hold on. Like, would you say that Kiwami 2, like, for you is like compared to like, Yakuza 2 is like the soy Wojak of games?
All right, Redditor.
I mean, I
Does that
probably prefer
mean?
not to use those terms, but like, I mean, I probably agree on some level.
All right, Redditor. Yagamo.
I mean, what? What's wrong with using Wojak as a comparison for
Really?
Yakuza 2
I
and
don't know.
Kiwami 2?
I mean, like my original Kiwami rant video was like, pretty crazy and like, I guess, well, it wasn't that crazy, but like I was kind of like Kiwami 2 makes me very sad and depressed. I think these days I try to keep like a more level head about the games just because I've no damaged all of them. They all have like their qualities, but even years on, there's still a lot of things that disappoint me about Kiwami 2. The majority of that isn't like exclusive to no damage. When it comes to the no damage of Kiwami 2, one positive I will give it is I think it handles a lot of the long battles better than the original. For one, they're designed in a way where you actually have to fight all the enemies to like move on. So that's a nice improvement. There's like certain additions, like there's certain like new combat set pieces that were like really fun, and the flow of them like just work really well. I mean, one good improvement is the trucks. Like there's actual moving trucks and like the way they just integrate themselves like with every like new section. That was really cool. You can like throw enemies off of them like physically in real time, not just in a heat action. So really appreciate that. But when it comes to the boss fights, the fucking blocking of the enemies and your block staggering infuriate me to no end. Like there's just a lot of things about like Kiwami 2's combat design compared to like Kiwami 1. Like for one, just the way enemies like just will not attack you unless they're like right up in your face. It makes tiger dropping them a lot more frustrating. Kiwami 1 has enemy AI where like they'll try to attack you from across the room and they'll like hone in on your position, but it makes them like much more predictable. While in Kiwami 2, it's like a whole different like pattern. Whenever you do like a grab combo and like throw them up and throw them against the ground, it's like a dice roll whether or not they'll actually take damage from the grab combo. That was very frustrating. Like whenever you're doing a grab combo, like square, triangle, like circle, and like if they hit a wall, boom, it's over. You just fucked it up. I hate that sort of stuff. And there is tech in Kiwami too. You can do some really cool combos from like their back that go on forever, but it feels random. And also, this is something which like Gungshot found out. Is apparently, to do better combos, you probably have to play at 30 FPS. I just kind of hate that on principle because I want to play at the best frame rate, but if the best frame rate limits your options because the enemies react faster, it's like, ugh. I've had my fun times with the Kiwami 2 like no damages. In fact, I started the Roblox no damages because my original Kiwami 2 video wasn't too good, so I did a slightly better version in my Roblox like Kiwami 2 no damage. But overall, I'm just gonna put it at a C because there's just a lot of things about that combat design that frustrate me to no end.
I mean, from what I've heard, like, I remember somebody saying that to describe Kiwami 2's combat is literally just Yakuza 6 without a soul.
I gotta replay Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2 back to back because I don't know which game I like or hate better. Because I mean, I can see both sides.
Man, I was praying that it would be in D tier.
Yagamo, you know what? Hey guys, so Judgment Kaisen 1988, aka Yagamo, is a absolute clip farmer because he is saying this for clicks. He actually thinks the games are.
Oh, shut the fuck up!
Yesterday he called the TV show bid for clicks.
You bitch! You bitch!
Okay. Anyways,
moving on to Yakuza 3, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah. So then, what did you say about Yakuza 3's combat? How would you say like you share the same sentiment with like other like fans as a no damager?
Okay, so Yakuza 3, I think might be one of my favorite games to no damage with the boss fights specifically. Because just Yakuza 3 does this thing which no other game does, where on the harder difficulties, boss fights have more health. That's kind of frustrating, but honestly, like from a no damage perspective, it makes like every encounter feel like really special. I don't know, because like you actually have to like grind towards it. And most of the fights I really like, because most of them are just these really cool 1v1 fights. When it comes to no damaging the long battles, though, on the legend difficulty, it could be a little frustrating. I don't know, because I mean, the first one's kind of cool, but it's also kind of a tutorial one. The second one has a fun gimmick with Kanda. Then you have that infuriating one with like Lao Kao Long, the one in Kamurocho. You have the final level, which, I mean, that one's kind of okay, but it's also kind of structured weird. You have like the section where you can kind of skip most of the enemies. Then you have a gun hallway, which in the remaster, the gun enemies don't shoot you, which I'm kind of thankful for because in the original, they just immediately shoot you on sight and it's miserable. Then you have like boss fights interrupting. Like the final boss fights of like Yakuza 3 are really dope. They're some of my favorites in the franchise. But I guess playing it on legend difficulty, I went a little bit insane because every time I lost against the final boss fight, I had to redo the entire level over and over again. But overall, I mean, in terms of just boss fights alone, I think Yakuza 3 is probably one of my favorites because also that's when the parry mechanics become the most useful because you're always like studying boss fight movesets. You're like studying what to do. Like every encounter feels like really set up really well. I mean, it doesn't have my favorite story, but just the Yakuza 3 boss fights are just like really legendary in their own rights. I fucking hate Rikia though. Holy shit! I don't know how you no damage that guy without the Komaki parry because like on new game, he actually blocks everything. So I think that's my opinion on Yakuza 3. I think I'm going to put it in A tier.
Oh shit!
Also, see, do you usually no damage every game on legend difficulty?
I didn't used to do that, but nowadays I try to keep myself up to that standard. Before I did it only on hard because on legend difficulty you can't retry the boss fights. You have to retry from a save point. But I think nowadays I hold myself to a higher standard, which causes me much suffering. But that's just kind of how I do it now.
And honestly, I'm pretty surprised that you put Yakuza 3 that high. I mean, like usually, like Yakuza 3 is considered the black sheet of Yakuza games just because of like how like not so polished its combat is. But then again, that's probably because of the remaster.
I feel like the issues with the polish of the combat system you're probably more likely to run into those just playing the game normally. But when you're no damaging the boss fights on New Game Plus and you pretty much have every ability unlocked from the Tiger Drop to the Komaki Parry. Okay, one thing about Yakuza 3, I don't like its Tiger Drop because it doesn't have iframes. Like honestly, the Tiger Drop not having iframes might put it like at B tier.
As you dropping it down.
No, I'm gonna leave it at A.
All right, moving on. Yakuza 4, the peak Yakuza 4.
Having to switch up your.
I think Yakuza 4 is peak, and as a game, I like it better than 3, but its no damage is crippled by a few things. I don't know if it's the most fun no damage game. It kind of has a similar issue with the Yakuza 0, where it might be too easy in areas. Or I don't think easy is the right term, but it just isn't satisfying to like complete the entire thing because it's like too short. There's not that many boss fights. For one, like the multiple protagonist style, Akiyama only gets 4 boss fights in the game, and only 2 of them are really good, and there's one that's okay, and there's one that's bad. So Akiyama not really shooting for the fences here, doesn't get the best fights, but then we get to Saejima, and he gets a few decent fights. I don't know, his fights against Saito I kind of like. The Kiryu one is a little too gimmicky. I mean, it's cool from like a conceptual standpoint, but actually fighting him, he's not that fun to fight because he's like a player character. He's just too OP. The Majima fight's really dope though with Saejima. Really like that fight. Fighting Miname again with Saejima didn't feel right. I don't know if anyone had to fight Miname again. I really wanted it to be Akiyama. Saejima's final boss fight is still dope though. But I don't know, just like there's not that many boss fights in Yakuza 4 on replay, and that just kind of drags it down for me. So if I were to like rank Yakuza 4's no, and also Yakuza 4 has the abysmal like Tanimura final boss fight that really drags it down, and also it has like the fucking I haven't done the long battles for Yakuza 4, but one thing which I'm really dreading is the suitcase battle. Oh good lord! Like there's like one long battle, it's just you carry a suitcase for the entire thing. That one seems miserable. So in terms of no damaging, Yakuza 4, I think I'd probably put it like in a B or C tier. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to put it on B.
Oh boy.
I'm surprised you didn't complain about Saejima.
Oh, I mean, I guess Saejima's like slower movement doesn't let him do too many cool combos. With the boss fight specifically, I don't find it the biggest issue. But I guess in some of the long battles, I might find it more frustrating, especially in that prison one whenever I get around to it.
And what about Tanimura? Like, I mean, his moveset is just pretty interesting to say at best, and his final boss fight is literally just him getting jumped. What did you say about that?
The final boss fight is terrible, but the one boss fight he gets by himself with Seguchi, really like that one.
Ah, I see.
He only gets one though, which is so sad. But it was a good one.
Yakuza.
And up next,
Yakuza
let's go with Yakuza 5.
I have a feeling you're either going to say it's like not that bad or you're going to say it's terrible. Because for the past while, I'm trying to complete 0 and Deathmatch 100, especially on Akiyama, has been a massive pain in the ass. It is not fun.
And
The AI, okay, I know it's supposed to be edge on the seat, but like literally every fucking time, I'm not kidding, the AI will attack you even like when your camera is zooming back in. Like, you know when you do certain heat actions, your camera will like zoom out, but then it will zoom back in when it's over.
And sometimes it won't.
Yeah.
all right.
But it literally just fucking the AI can attack you while this camera is readjusting. which is so fucking bullshit. I hate that so much.
It isn't frustrating, and honestly, that worries me when I'm about to like no damage the long battles in Yakuza 5. Whenever I get around to that, the camera will be my biggest enemy. But in terms of the Yakuza 5 no damage, I'm going to be speaking mostly from the boss fight perspective. It kind of has a similar issue with Yakuza 4 in the sense that the multiple protagonists, like the boss fights, kind of get spread around different like characters. So the satisfying progression of like a Yakuza 3 boss fight no damage isn't really there, but there's just more stuff going on with Yakuza 5 and just much more dope encounters. Like I'm thinking about like the 100 man like Tojo brawl with Kiryu, that's classic. Saejima has like the final boss of Saejima is like legendary. Then you have like Haruka stuff is funny. I included those, but I do like Haruka section quite a bit. Akiyama's like selection sucks ass. It's just like Kanai and that fucker who knows Capoeira. Oh, I hate him so much. So Akiyama kind of drew the short end of the stick, but I still really like the second like Kanai fight, like at the train station. That one's kind of neat. I mean, it's kind of neat to have a no damage of that one. Then you get the Shinada. Shinada gets the one against Daigo. He gets the one against a huge crowd. And I really like his final boss fight too. I think Shinada is like the most well equipped to fight Bala. But overall, in my opinion, I mean, I think Yakuza 5's combat system could be a little bit limited when you're fighting the boss fights per se. Like you can't really do as many crazy combos as in like say maybe Yakuza 4 or Kiwami 1, but the hype of the encounters, it has some of the most hype encounters in the franchise. I think that alone just makes me like, I need to no damage this game. I want to like fight these hype ass encounters. But in terms of no damaging the boss fights, I'm gonna put it in B tier. I'd probably put it like in front of Kiwami 1 or the Kiwami 1's combat has a lot more tech than Yakuza 5. I'm biased. I'm gonna put it in front of Kiwami 1. So yeah, that's where I put Yakuza 5. No
Oh, you really do not find like any problem with the enemy AI of how like they're more aggressive compared to like other like Yakuza games.
Oh, I mean, like it's just I'm talking more from a boss fight perspective, and a lot of they got really aggressive with like the Tojo clan. It's just that you're playing that as Kiryu, and Kiryu's like Dragon Heat mode is so overpowered that it kind of becomes a slight non-issue. But they are really aggressive. You have to be like so on your toes during that fight.
Can I, see, low key, after we're done with this, I want to see you do Deathmatch 100 Akiyama. That shit, I need you to understand. From a period. No, not no damage, just play it. I need you to understand my suffering. This is, that shit is...
I understand plenty.
Are you sure?
You must
here's
as I have sounding ass.
Shut the fuck up. Okay, no, but you gotta understand. Akiyama, okay, look. I never had a problem with Akiyama in 5 before, right? But revisiting it to 100% it, and I made the stupid decision to do my completion run on Legend, so I'm stuck on that, right? But Legend Akiyama, doing Legend difficulty in the Coliseum as Akiyama is probably the worst experience ever. He literally he cannot do shit against like tankier characters. They don't get stunned at all.
Any character blocks, Akiyama is fucked.
Yeah, no, which is literally almost everybody. Do you know like that fat
Especially
boxer? You know
Kanai was such a bad match for Akiyama. Oh my goodness.
No, do you know like that fat boxer with like the blue gloves and shit who kind of acts like a sumo wrestler at the same time?
Not really, no.
Okay, well that's an example of a tank character and you cannot do shit against them. The most you can do from my experience is just literally just spam the fucking drop kick, the tiger drop. And also, I wish Akiyama's tiger drop was good because that shit is terrible. The best part about it is it sends the enemy flying, but that's it. Like, it does no damage.
Yeah, because
it does not
Kiryu's tiger drop is really good. But yeah, no, I don't like Saijima's, I'll just say that. Saijima's tiger drop, I mean, it's really useful, but it just has different timing and it just always throws me off.
Like, with Kiryu, you could be a little messy with, but Saijima's, you have to be a little more accurate. Like, and if you mess it up, it's kind of, you can't really dodge out of it as well, so, ooh, can't really fuck up with Saejima. But Akiyama's in general is just terrible. Like, it does no damage. Like, Saijima's gets to do a fuck ton of damage, but Akiyama, nope. For some fucking reason, he just, nope. No damage. It's pain in the ass.
Moving on to Yakuza 6.
Yakuza 6, baby. Okay, so there's things I appreciate about this no damage in retrospect. And one of the biggest ones is that every single boss fight has a unique moveset, which is just, that never happens now. I think they like just got too ambitious with Yakuza 6, and they've just been like moving back ever since. Like Kiwami 2, most of them are reused movesets. Judgment, Nearly a lot of them are reused movesets again. I mean, I'm kind of talking about future games and beyond that, but it's just very like satisfying that every single encounter in Yakuza 6 is a unique moveset. It's a unique encounter. It has its own flair. I wish they were in a game with a combat system I liked more. But I also do like that a lot of the Yakuza 6 encounters, like Yakuza 0, do tend to be 1v1s. There's a couple group encounters, but there's a lot of 1v1 encounters in Yakuza 6, and that's really fun, especially when you want to get more experimental with your combos. But a lot of the issues is like just enemies like deflecting your blocks and combo speed being a little bit weird, a little bit of inconsistencies. The enemy design, like just enemies not attacking you unless they're like right up in your face, so having to bait out attacks was always like so annoying. I'd probably put Yakuza 6 at like the front of C tier for now. It's maybe one I could revisit and I'll have more fun with. But yeah, for now I'm going to put it at the front of C tier. But there is a lot that I appreciate about it, and the music in those fights is phenomenal. Just wish they were in a game with a combat system I liked more.
Oh, for real, Bloodstained Philosophy just goes hard.
Wait, so
It's beautiful.
wait, so 6 over Yakuza PS2, right?
I would say that, yeah.
Oh God, I can see the people are gonna dunk on you for that just because they're thinking
just that-
specifically of the combat.
God
I mean, I am
forbid
kind of
somebody
thinking from
has
a no damage
opinions.
perspective. There's just more to do in the Yakuza 6 combat than in Yakuza 1 combat.
Yeah, no, like
I mean, and the no damage perspective sometimes just doesn't matter at all. Like, so you could like the Yakuza 1 combat system more than 6's, but in terms of like just doing the epic stuff, there's more of it you can do in 6. And just like more encounters that are just 1v1 in general.
I know, but I feel like there's gonna be some of those people who are kind of misinterpreting what it means to like from what no damage perspective means, and some people are just gonna think, oh, the combat in general. Like, no, that's not how that works. I'm not a no damager myself, but I've seen a lot of no damage, so I can say it is not the same. Okay,
There's
I
a lot
think
of useless stuff you do in no damage that no normal person would ever do.
so true. Anyways, here's an interesting one. The Yakuza Like a Dragon, the RPG games. These are going to be the most interesting ones in my opinion.
Okay, so I feel like Yakuza 7 has to be really low because it's technically actually impossible to no damage every boss fight. There's one boss fight you just can't no damage. It's the Majima one because he has an attack that will always hit you no matter what you do. And also, in order to like no damage Yakuza 7, I kind of had to cheat because what I did was I used the cheat engine to pretty much like make my agility stat 9,999. Could you technically get that in the game? Yes, but it would take like 500 or 700 hours of grinding the bicycle game to get those stat boosters. And even when your every like party member's agility is 9,999, you can still get hit by attacks. Now, even I mean, with that stat and only that stat at like 9,999, I did manage to no damage every single boss fight on Legend. And the fact that like I was one of the first people on the scene like trying this out does make it like a very memorable game for me. You know, I'm pretty biased. I do like it, but it's just a crapshoot. It's all RNG. It's all like, you know, mid max to the max level and then just pray. So there's not much going on there, but it was fun to do it. So I'm very. I don't know whether to put it in D tier or C tier. That's what I'm really like hung up about. It's kind of like ooh.
Well, it kind of sounds like D to me. Doesn't sound very
Yeah.
interesting.
This could be our first D. Let's put it in D.
Let's
God.
go. And
I
also,
saw-
like, I mean, honest.
I really like 7 though. 7's one of my favorite games, and the combat system, it's a little limited in areas, and 8 improves on it so much. But one of my favorite games still, but no damage perspective, it's literally RNG bullshit. So
Honestly,
it's gotta be pretty low.
I don't think I've heard a single person who has ever done
was-
like a no damage for like a turn-based RPG, especially
I was
Yakuza,
inspired
like a
to do
dragon.
it by this YouTuber called Dr. W because he no damaged a couple of the boss fights in
Dr.
Yakuza
W.
7, and I was like, what? It's possible? So I just kind of gave it a shot myself.
Crazy. All right, back to at the actual combat games. Gaiden. This one, I think, I
Oh.
assume you might
one-
have or might have hated this. Wait, what the fuck? I mean,
I'm
might
a
have-
little leaning on the hate side. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, God.
There's a lot which I like about the combat, but a lot of it in comparison to say Lost Judgment, there's a lot of really disappointing changes. But one, no new game plus means that a lot of the beginning boss fights you kind of have to like fight with most of your abilities like gimp from the start. Especially like the boss fights in the first long battle, you can't upgrade shit, so you're just fighting them with like barely anything in your arsenal. So it's like, what the fuck? I mean, like most of my no damages, I do them on New Game Plus with like, all the cool combat abilities unlocked to like have the most stylish no damages. But Gaiden, you just can't do that. It's impossible unless you mod the game. So that was very frustrating. One thing that's positive about Gaiden is that it does have a lot of like decent 1v1 encounters. Not that many, but the ones that are there are kind of cool. Suruno is kind of frustrating. Some of his like weapon movesets are a little too fast for my liking. The Nishitani character is very annoying, but fighting him is fun. I like fighting him. And the final boss fight is like probably the greatest of the entire franchise. That's what throws me for a loop with Gaiden is that a good majority of the game kind of washes over me, but then like the finale of the game is like one of the greatest finales of all time and is amazing and is awesome and like awe-inspiring. Fucking put it in the C tier. I'm gonna put it in the C tier.
Honestly,
I might put it like above Kiwami 2 and like Yakuza 1. It might be top of C tier. Let's just say that.
I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Notice how all the Dragon Engine games with Kiryu in it are on C tier.
Yeah, no, I was gonna mention that. Like, I've already imagined for the longest time the Dragon Engine games would be the least fun to no damage in general. So I'm not shocked.
But there is fun stuff in Gaiden, but also there's like stuff how the juggle like limit has been like just reduced. Wasn't a fan of that. Like you just can't do long like juggles anymore because the enemies just instantly fall over after like 4 to 6 seconds. And just there isn't the agent style isn't the most useful. Like its normal combos are kind of ass. Its extreme heat mode properties are very useful though, and the gadgets have their uses too, especially the wire and the serpent. Yeah, no, Gaiden's kind of all over the place for me. Very mixed bag. A lot of fun stuff though, and the final boss fight is one of my all-time favorites to no damage. Like, I mean, the final boss fight alone might move it up to B, but I'm just gonna keep it in C for now.
Okay, another interesting one, Infinite Wealth.
Infinite Wealth, like, it doesn't do that much to, like, raise the no damage game, but, like, it does enough where I actually feel like it's kind of fun to do. For one, I did not need a cheat with Infinite Wealth. I did grind a fuck ton, though, to pretty much get every character to max level and get, like, a majority of the jobs to max level, but there was no cheat engine involved. That was all, like, legwork I did. So that already, like, makes it feel more earned and, like, more possible. And two, every single boss fight is possible to no damage on Legend with no, like, asterisk quotes, like, attached to them. There's no, like, Majima move, which is unavoidable, because any unavoidable damage move, you can just either stun the enemy so they never do it, or you could kill them before they ever, like, pull it out. So there's always a method. There's always a strategy to overcoming your sorrows. And Infinite Wealth adds this brand new item called the Sea God's Talisman, which, if you land a perfect guard, you dodge the attack. And it is tough to, like, time that, because you basically have to do, like, a perfect input timing for an attack that, like, instantly comes out. But if you learn it, that's how you no damage. There's actually, like, some skill involved now. You have to, like, learn these input timings, spacing and all that. It's really great. And just, like, coming up with the strategies. I had a really great time, like, no damaging Infinite Wealth. I feel, like, tempted to put it in B tier, but it is still kind of a turn-based game. I'm going to put it in, it would be really controversial to put it in B tier, and also it would just be biased on my part. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put it in B tier.
What? I thought you were gonna put it in C.
Oh, honestly, it's more of a C tier. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, it is a big improvement over like a Dragon. Let's just put it at the top of the C tier. Why not? I am biased.
Okay, we got Kenzan. This one also might be interesting because samurai swords.
Kenzan has
Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima, baby. I have not played it yet, but Kenzan has really interesting sword tech. Like, some of the stuff you can do with a single sword style and dual sword style, I don't necessarily do it in my no damage video. But there's people who can dodge cancel out of the single sword style and do a lot of cool stuff. However, the way the game handles New Game Plus does not allow you to do a lot of that cool stuff in the beginning of the game, because on New Game Plus and Kenzan, you lose all your moves, and the only way to relearn them is to go to trainers, because Kenzan doesn't have a traditional upgrade system. Any, like, new combat move is just learned from trainers. The only thing which level ups give you is just, like, stat boost. Like, more health, more speed. You get to keep your levels. You don't get to keep the moves you learn from trainers. You have to go back to the trainers to relearn your moves. Not the biggest fan of the system, but even with those limitations, Kenzan has, like, a really fun combat system. Just, like, the dual sword and single sword styles are really dope. A good majority of the fights are pretty dope as well. They have a lot of, like, fun gimmicks involved. There's a few that are kind of ass. I feel the ninja's kind of annoying. A few of the demons are pretty infuriating. There's one that has, like, a fat sumo moveset. I hate that guy so much. But Kenzan, pretty dope. Not that many boss fights, but like the ones that are there are like pretty cool and interesting. I'd probably put it at the end of B tier for now. It could use a replay here and there. I do plan on returning to the long battles. The final long battle in Kenzan is probably like one of the most challenging things in the entire Yakuza franchise. That's why I haven't done the long battles in that one. I dread it, but also whenever if I do complete it, it will be like one of the greatest accomplishments I ever do. So yeah, I'll just leave Kenzan there.
That's cool.
Wait, do you mean it's very hard to no damage, or just too hard in general?
No damage because it's so long. It's like a 45-minute encounter, and it has like 5 mini bosses inside the level. It's about as long as like fucking Yakuza 7 dungeon. Longer even.
The cool Black Panther games, I think they're called in English, right? Because I cannot pronounce that Japanese name.
Yeah, the Kurohyo games. So Kurohyo 1. These games probably have the most different combat system out of anything in the franchise. Like they're even more like harder to get into than Kenzan or Ishin. Because at least Kenzan or Ishin follow like the Yakuza combat like combo system, the finisher system. The Kurohyo games don't. They have like a Def Jam fighting system. They follow like fighting game logic, which means the boss fights are actually harder to deal with or like style on because they have all the moves you do, including parries. They are so good at parrying your ass that the Kurohyo combat system is super satisfying, but for no damage, it kind of feels a little limited because you have such little room to fuck up. Honestly, like, I mean, my original no damages aren't the most stylish because I mostly relied on grabs. I just used grab attacks over and over and over until I won. Kurohyo 2 is a little bit more forgiving, but Kurohyo 1 can be very punishing. Though a lot of no damagers have found ways to be more stylish, so my methods are a little bit antiquated. But back when I was no damaging Kurohyo 1, I was one of the first people to do it from my knowledge, so things have evolved quite a bit in terms of strategies. I have not looked into it too much. I'd probably put Kurohyo 1 in C tier. Honestly, like maybe even, yeah, let's put it in C tier for now. Just because like I feel like a little hard to get into it, but it does have a really great combat system. Once I actually learned the strategies, I'd probably put it up higher. Kurohyo 2 is more forgiving with the boss fights. I'll just say that up front because they have like this exhaustion system that's a lot easier to abuse. So you have like bigger telegraphs on when you can just combo the shit out of the enemies without them parrying you. So I would put Kurohyo 2 above Kurohyo 1 no damage. I'd probably put that in B tier.
That's pretty.
But like fighting normal enemies is a lot more frustrating in Kurohyo 2. I will say that up front. Oh my goodness.
So
I think Kurohyo 2 deserves to be higher because there's like one combat style that just allows you to like mix like every single different combat style into one big style. That's like one of the coolest things in the franchise. So really love that, and I love just mixing and matching for the best fight a boss fight.
So really, it's like the niche of the game's combat that merely turns you off as like a no damager.
Just compared to every single other game, like it just feels like a little bit weird, yeah. But the boss fights are fantastic. Nah, fuck it. Kurohyo 1 and B actually, and it doesn't feel right leaving it in C. The boss fights are just too cool.
There you go.
But I would put Kurohyo 2 above Kurohyo 1 no damage. Though I know some people would disagree because Kurohyo 2 has like certain other niche things, but I'd say let's move on.
So we got Ishin and then Ishin Kiwami.
All right, you got peak and you got mid. Let's go.
All right, Yagamo.
All right, so the
Did you even play original Ishin?
Yagamo, you said
I did.
You said
I mean Yagamo.
Can we kill Yagamo?
So the original Ishin, honestly, this kind of
applies.
applies to the new Ishin as well. But like Wild Dance style is like so far and away my favorite combat style in the game. I just love it, like the 360-degree movement. In my no damages, I only used the little Wild Dance style for most fights because it's easily my favorite. So original Ishin, I'm feeling a B on that one. Honestly, a lot of the specifics of the combat are kind of lost on me, but Wild Dance style is just absolutely a classic. Like it's never gonna go old. Really love the Wild Dance style, but like every now and then I did use like the single sword style for like its Tiger Drop specifically, or the hand-to-hand style for like its parry. A decent amount of fun fights, some cool 1v1s, but I think one thing which kind of like, kind of brings Ishin down a bit is that all the sword fights, like there's a big plot point about how every character is like using the same fighting style, and it kind of makes some of the fights blend together. Oh, the final boss fight's like one of my all-time favorites for sure. Fighting the second phase is a little frustrating, but still, I'd probably put original Ishin in B, and I'm gonna put the new Ishin in C just out of spite. There's so many issues I have with the original. It's not even that bad, but like some of the issues it has just kind of irk me. So, flashback time. I'm gonna reincorporate something I said 30 minutes ago. So remember how I said in Kiwami 1, whenever you hit an enemy that has super armor, they will like flash white. and it's kind of like your indicator that, hey, they're in the middle of an attack, watch out. So not only does Ishin Kiwami add more super armor, it takes away the indicator that they have super armor from the original game.
Bro, really
Like, I can't believe it, dude. I can't believe it. Like, that they would do that. They would add more super armor and then take away the thing, which lets you know that the enemy is in the middle of their super armored attack. What were they thinking? So, just because of that, fucking C tier.
I think.
Oh, good God.
Hold on, Gen Z. Gen Z is canceling Ishin Kiwami.
What the?
Ishin Kiwami.
You know, Seat. I think we're gonna have to let out a Yagami scream for that one. Yagami's iconic scream. Fuck.
I don't know. I've done my screams. This game exhausts me so much.
I have not heard you scream, bro, at all.
So then, to describe Ishin Kiwami, a game that is so bad that would you say it makes you want to kill yourself?
Dude.
I don't know if I said that, but like it was like pretty frustrating.
Yagamo, you're the only one who say that.
Why, bro?
What? What do you
Dumb
mean?
fuck, bro. Anyways.
I mean, I probably like agree with it. I just can't agree with it because like I'm always no damaging life. You know how it be. Can't let a game get me over that.
Okay, next up, you got Dead Souls, the game that RGG never wants to remaster for some reason.
After the Dead Souls, I'm gonna put it in D. I already knew this from the beginning, and it's not because it's bad by any means. It's just that it's not the most interesting combat system. Honestly, it's kind of like similar to Yakuza 7. The gunplay means that like a lot of the boss fights are pretty basic. I don't know. I mean, Akiyama gets a decent one. He has some fun gimmicks. Majima just kind of gets the dude in the baseball stadium. My favorite boss fight in the game is probably like the octopus. Like the second phase. The first phase sucks ass. But the second phase has a lot of like fun gimmicks, a fun little tempo. If you fuck up your ammo count though, it can drag on. The final boss fights are pretty dope. Not like the really big one, like the one right before that one. And Hayashi's fight is really great. But beyond that, there's not that many boss fights, and the ones that are there are kind of whatever. You just point and shoot at the thing. I prefer the brawler system. Actually getting in there, landing hits, dodging, pointing and shooting just isn't as interesting to me. That's probably like one of the biggest things that kind of drags Dead Souls down for me in comparison to the other games. I'm just a bigger fan of beat 'em up combat, and I don't know if Dead Souls like shoot 'em up system kind of like elevates itself to the point where I would like put it above the other games. So yeah, no, Dead Souls there.
So, I mean, would you describe it to say like Dead Souls combat is like a shittier version of like RE4's like OG combat?
RE4 is like one of the greatest games of all time, absolutely, but that's just not fair. Like, I don't know, it's like the Mona Lisa comparing like a really great art student's like painting to the fucking Mona Lisa. It's just not fair. You're setting them up pretty bad. I love Resident Evil 4, the OG one. I also had a great time with the remake, but I do like the original better. If anything, I feel like maybe Dead Souls has more in common with Dead Rising, if anything. Though that's actually where I have to give Dead Souls props because the shooting feels better in Dead Souls than it does in Dead Rising. At least the original. Really like Dead Rising from what I've played, though, the original.
Oh, it's so good. You mean it's like Dead Rising in terms of shooting?
It's kind of got a little bit of a clunkiness to it. Just like a little bit of a weirdo system from back in the day. I don't know.
Oh, it's so strange. You can't move while shooting in Dead Souls?
Only if you do it in a certain mode. Dead Souls has like 3 different aiming modes. It has like a basic aiming mode, a slightly more precise aiming mode where you can still kind of move, and then one where you just stand in place to like more precisely aim. No, there's like a free shooting, then there's one with like a kind of shifty lock on, and then there's one with a big reticle that just leaves you like stuck in place. It's all kind of all over the place. It works decently enough once you get used to it, but just the boss fights aren't the most interesting thing. The long battles in that game are going to be interesting to no damage because the long battles are just the entire game. Oh my goodness. Like, I've seen people no damage the levels in Dead Souls, just like 1 to 4 hour long videos. It kind of like scares me whenever I get around to it.
1 to 4 hours.
Moving on.
1 to 4 hours. You're joshing, right? You're kidding. You're joking, right?
I mean, like, if you do all of Akiyama's levels, I mean, if you combine every single level he does, like Akiyama's like stuff, it's like an hour or so, and just similar thing for the other characters. So doing every single long battle and just combining it all into one big video, it would probably be around 4 hours because the whole game is just long battles. Like most Yakuza games, the long battles are like 20% of the game. For Dead Souls, it's like 85% of the game.
Bro.
It's a very weird turn.
Jesus Christ.
I might not play Dead Souls then, if that's the case. I'm kidding. I'll probably get to Dead Souls at some point, but that's crazy.
It's worth a play. I do think it's good. I don't think there's a bad Yakuza game aside from RGG Online because I can't read Japanese for a gacha game.
All right. Anyways, Fist of the North Star.
All right, Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise. I know a lot of people don't like this game. I know a lot of people love this game. Its combat system just, I don't know. I mean, I played this one before Kiwami 2, and like I was having such a fun time with this combat system. Then I played Kiwami 2s, and I was like, oh, brother. Like, I was very disappointed by it. But Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise, one of its biggest strengths are the boss fights. There's like so many like unique, fun encounters, unique movesets. And just Kenshiro, he has access to juggles. Like he has like he has like the punching combo. You just not infinitely punch them, but you just punch them a whole bunch. It's super satisfying. Like honestly, I think the only issues I have with like the Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise is that its version of a Tiger Drop is locked behind extreme heat mode. I thought that was stupid. But besides that, it has like one of the best combat systems in the series, and it's just so fun to play. Fantastic music, fantastic boss fights. Final boss fight, the character's a little bit lame, but I think the fight itself is awesome. I'm feeling tempted to put it in A, but also it feels weird because I don't know if I would put it above all those other games. Okay, I'm gonna put it in A. I'm gonna put it in A. Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise.
All right, the judgments. I so wonder where you're gonna place these. So wonder. So
I am so conflicted on the judgments. I'm not gonna lie. Because okay, first judgment game. The one thing which kind of like brings it back a bit is two things. One, a lot of the boss fights are reusing movesets. Two, a lot of the boss fights are group fights. Like even the ones that are using original movesets, like I understand that Higashi has an original moveset and it looks cool, but every single one of his fights is a group fight. You never get to fight him one-on-one, which, it makes his fights harder, but also I kind of wish I got to fight him one-on-one at least like once or twice. But no, you never do. Though his second fight is really dope. The way it's set up and the dynamic intro is fantastic. And even the fight in the arcade I think is really just conceptually cool. Judgment has a really dope combat system. It's a little clunky to get into, but once you understand its systems and like its parkour and get to fuck around with the enemies, I think there's a lot to really love. There's a couple drawbacks. One, partner AI. You just can't do juggles if you have a partner with you because they'll just interrupt your juggle combo and the boss fight will just go straight to the ground. Two, a lot of them are group fights. Not the biggest fan of that. Three, once again, the reused movesets annoy me. But like Judgment has some pretty peak encounters, fantastic music, just fantastic like concepts for fights. And the final boss fight is one of the greatest of all time. Tiger Style's really fun. Extreme Heat Mode's really fun. Also, just the fact that when you're in Extreme Heat Mode, even if you get hit, you don't take damage. Though a lot of no damagers do kind of consider that a big no-no. Like if you get hit when you're in Extreme Heat Mode, they'll be like, this is not stylish, bro. You whack. So, but it's still really fun.
You're not stylish, I don't know where to place it. Whack. You're not stylish, bro. You whack.
I think I'd probably put it in B tier. Judgment. The first Judgment game. It does have a few issues. I mean, as a game, the stealth sections annoy me, but I'm just talking about no damage right now. The long battles in Judgment also not the biggest fan of most of them, but that's another issue for another day whenever I get around to it. So yeah.
Not stylish, you whack, bruh. Not stylish, you whack, bruh.
The no damage scene is a lot more competitive these days for Yakuza specifically. It's grown.
I know, but like the way he described it, not stylish, whack, bruh. Okay.
I guess it's the final one. Lost Judgment.
No more.
I think Lost Judgment will be the first S rank of every game ranked.
Oh boy. Yeah, I kind of saw that
coming. Lost Judgment, I think, easily has the best hand-to-hand combat in the franchise. It is so satisfying. It's like they looked at Judgment and they just found every single way to improve it. Just like, the dodge animations are a lot better. Every single style has a unique dodge animation, a unique Tiger Drop with different properties. It's just faster by default. And there's just like new additions are just so satisfying. Like, every time you dodge with Crane, boom, you get faster. Every time you land a heavy attack with the Tiger style, boom, you deal more damage. Every time you parry an enemy with Snake, you get like more defensive properties. The Boxer style feels like it shouldn't be in the game, but it has useful properties for no damage, so just ignore that. But it was so much fun. And okay, so Lost Judgment, it doesn't exactly solve the issue of reused movesets. It kind of does like a middle ground approach where there's a good number of fights which have original movesets. And I think one of the biggest issues I had with Judgment is that a lot of the reused movesets went to characters that were important in the story. Okay, so like I wouldn't have an issue if like maybe I was fighting someone that I didn't give a shit about. Maybe if they got a reuse moveset, I'd be like, okay, whatever. But there was like some important villains in Judgment that when you finally get to go toe to toe with them one on one, they're using the fucking bitch ass boxer move from like Yakuza 5. It's like, what are you doing here? This is supposed to be an epic encounter. You just like deflated all the tension with this. Lost Judgment does not do that. All like the most important story characters get original movesets, you get original fights, and they're some of my favorite fights in the franchise. And it does have a little bit too many like filler fights with like the arcade members, but even those are still fun because this combat system is just really, really fun. Even the group encounters, just you have a lot more tools now to like fuck around with groups, and like the tech for Lost Judgment goes crazy. I would recommend looking up a T Lover like X7's video on Lost Judgment tech. It's nearly 2 hours long. It has so many things that you would never think about in your entire life or playing the game normally, but man, is it fascinating for like stylish no damages. Just it's got to go in the S rank. It's like it's like my top three favorites of all the Yakuza games. That's like a just in general, but in terms of no damage, I feel like Lost Judgment is kind of like the peak. And honestly, the only issues you could have with it are just kind of like maybe nitpicks, like very niche, like no damage or nitpicks. Like I know some people don't like Lost Judgment because like a lot of the no damage videos just revolve into juggle the enemy really good. I can kind of understand that, but combat system. And even if you have an issue with the juggles, Lost Judgment, I haven't studied this game myself, but Lost Judgment has like a really good ground combo game if you like learn it. I didn't myself, but it does have one.
CP.
So no, I think that's how I see the no damages for Yakuza, but this list is pretty rough. I don't know, there were a couple games I should probably like revisit, reanalyze, but right now off the top of my head, and for the reasons I've given, and for my own biases involved, this is the ranking.
So then, like, of all the Dragon Age games, like, I mean, I cannot blame you as to why, like, Lost Judgment is the best of them all, because I feel like that's where RGG perfected the combat.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish they would, like, continue some of the things they already had there instead of just getting rid of them for no reason. I don't know.
I'm not going to hold you, Seat. A 2-hour-long video about a Yakuza game's combat is a little absurd. It is never that serious.
It is.
You know damagers are really special. Like a 2-hour-long video on a one game's combat.
It's actually like an hour 45, but yeah, it is 2 hours.
I mean, hey, he is certainly the graduate of yapology.
Absolutely,
I mean,
I've got my
truly is a
masters and
yapper.
everything.
I mean, if his commentary videos don't tell you that, then I don't know what will.
Right, going outside of the no damaging realm, see, do you have a favorite Yakuza game?
Favorite Yakuza game? I have a top three that's pretty locked in. Like my top three is like Yakuza 0, Yakuza 5, Lost Judgment, and which game is above which one is so hard to decide. I just can't. But those three are definitively my favorites.
That's peak, truly peak. Okay, but what about your favorite Yakuza character? I think some people would be very interested in that because people just knew
my favorite Yakuza game.
No, your favorite Yakuza character because I think that's a little interesting one because you're like just Roblox.
Oh, that is so tough. There's so many great ones, but I really love Shinada. Like Shinada is just so dope. And Kaito and the Kaito Files just really made a name for himself. Just like really carrying like that main story, just having like a really interesting like just lead presence. Kiryu's classic for sure, and Ichiban in Yakuza 7 just really like stood heads and shoulders, like just a really fantastic protagonist introduction. And in 8 he's still pretty cool, but 8's story just doesn't complement him nearly as well as 7's did.
The vendetta of having to share your story with someone, that's definitely the reason.
Yeah, I feel like Kiryu does kind of like Kiryu does really overshadow Ichiban in Infinite Wealth.
Say overshadow, but definitely
a really great character. Maybe not my favorite, but there's this one guy in the original Yakuza 1 where you're doing the sub story for Yuya, where you're at his club and then you get assaulted by an assassin. There's this one fucking guy where Kiryu like drags Yuya out of the way, and the guy standing behind him just stares death straight in the fucking face.
I remember this.
Oh, I love that guy. That guy's dope.
See, but what do you think of the other Yakuza protagonists, Yagami and is it Tatsuya?
Okay, so I think Yagami gets way too much hate. I mean, there's like some people who are like, oh, he's too boring, he doesn't get enough memes or whatever. I don't know, I like Yagami, he's got a fun presence, though I probably do like the other protagonists better. And well, I'm also a little impartial to Yagami because his combat styles are like some of my favorites in the entire franchise, so on and so forth. As for Tatsuya, I think he's really dope in the first Kurohyo game. He's like very immature, he's a brat, but he has like this whole arc he develops. In Kurohyo 2, there's a nice concept going on where he's like a more mature version of himself. But he's also just not that interesting to watch do stuff in the second game. But that's like more due to the fact that the second game story just isn't as interesting as the first game story. And I probably say that the first game story isn't the best either. It's honestly it's probably like the most shonen thing in the entire franchise.
Shonen.
It kind of feels episodic at points, but there's like an interesting development going on with Tatsuya, and also probably like one of the and also Kurohyo 1. He's like the character's just kind of a brat. You know, he's kind of like a not dipshit per se, but he's like kind of a dickhead, and it's kind of fun to see him like develop out of that in the first game. So that's what I think about Tatsuya.
Would you recommend the Kurohyo games to most Yakuza fans?
Absolutely, but also with like the preface, the pretext that the combat system is not going to play like anything they've played in the Yakuza franchise, and to just approach it as its own thing. There's English patches for the PSP games now, which just make it a lot more convenient to just kind of jump on in. And emulating PSP games has got to be like one of the easiest things you could do. I
So
got it
then
on
basically, like if you have a phone or PC, you could play the Kurohyo games.
Pretty much though, playing it on a phone is, I mean, you could do it. There's a lot of no damagers that do it actually, but just there's certain inputs you have to do that are just not fun to do on like a touchscreen format.
Wait, okay, so I think one important question. I have two questions actually, but I want to ask this one first. First, would you ever recommend to no damage a Yakuza game?
I mean, I'd have to like know more context about like, I mean, they're gonna do it as like their YouTube content or just doing it for fun. I mean, no damage, like just for fun. Being the best at something is kind of cool. I mean, might as well give it a try. But if you get too frustrated, don't like harp yourself. Don't beat yourself up over it. I guess.
Okay, what about from a
Patience
YouTube
is
standpoint?
key.
What about a YouTube standpoint?
YouTube standpoint, I mean, I don't know how you could like pop off with like Yakuza no damage videos. I mean, you might be better off doing analysis videos, but give it a go. I mean, I think at this point there's like so many Yakuza no damage videos. But if you think you can like either do a really good one or do better than ones like out there, then yeah, give it a go. I don't know. It's just like there's like so many different like Yakuza no damage videos. Like, I mean, I say there's so many different ones. It's still like pretty niche compared to like any other game, like say Devil May Cry. So. I mean, might as well if you want.
Honestly, oh yeah, okay. And my second question, shit, I kind of forgot. Fuck, I actually forgot my second question.
God damn it, Flanks.
No, wait. What was my second question? Oh yeah. Okay, I know this is a Yakuza podcast, but would you want to like briefly like explain your thoughts on like no damage in other games like Silent Hill, for example, your most recent project?
So, like, I mean, my most popular videos do tend to be like Yakuza no damage videos, but I did kind of want to jump onto other games, just specifically to kind of vary up my channel. I forgot, I mean, I did the Splinter Cell one just like randomly. And okay, so like, but those videos, I don't no damage the boss fights. I no damage the entire game. That's like a whole different process, and it takes a little bit longer. And like, I'm following other people's like strategies a little bit more closely. Like the Silent Hill one, for example. I mean, I'm kind of like building my no damage based on carcinogen, like carcinogens no damage. It's a different process, also because like I tend to do those longer videos when the boss fights aren't that interesting. Because like just a video that's just like Silent Hill all boss fights no damaged is kind of boring as fuck. Because the boss fights are like the weakest aspects of like Silent Hill 1 and 2. And with Splinter Cell, there's no boss fights. Metal Gear Solid, it does have some dope boss fights, but like my most fond memories of like Metal Gear Solid is the stealth gameplay. So if my no damage doesn't show that off, it just doesn't feel like a substantial video. Though honestly, with Metal Gear Solid, I probably could have gotten away with just doing the boss fights because it does have some really interesting boss fights. But yeah, no, I mean, sometimes I kind of want to show off the entire game, and sometimes I no damage Ice Age 2: The Meltdown for the Nintendo Wii because it is a childhood classic. Stay tuned for my Ben 10 no damage coming in 3 months.
What the fuck?
Also, how do you
that's a
choose?
long
There's God of
time.
War though. I
That is
no damage the boss
time.
fights in God of War. That was more similar to Yakuza. Same with Devil May Cry. One day I'll do Devil May Cry 3, but that game is demanding. But yeah,
So-
end quote.
So then when are you gonna at least eventually come to that time where you're gonna no damage Kung Fu Panda the video game?
I have a copy of it for the Xbox 360. That's always been on my mind. I just have to get around to it. I never beat that game as a child, but I got like halfway through.
Also, Sid, how do you choose which games you wanna no damage?
Well, I mean, just mostly from like a list of interest and every now and then random inspiration. I have a copy of like Ghost Rider for the PS2 that I want to know damage the boss fights in that like one day because that game is cool.
So is it just
And
games
also
you generally enjoy?
generally enjoy, and also I've kind of been hitting on some of the iconic hack and slashes. I did the God of War series because it's one of the most famous hack and slashes, and it would be cool to know damage the boss fights in that.
So you still
Devil May
haven't played.
Cry is a franchise which I really really like. I mean, okay, I say I really like. I've only played 1 and 3, but I really love those games. So I'm happy I did 1, and I really have to get to 3 at some point. But it's a daunting video. It scares me because that's like the most stylish, like heavy game of all time, and I'm not that good at it. So I have to get better at it. And Kingdom Hearts was a video I did because I played through most of the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and I really like most of those games, and I would love to do videos on the rest of them. However, I'm stuck. I'm stuck because I have this one video where like the final boss fight, I have to no damage to like finish this one Kingdom Hearts like super boss fights video is Sephiroth, and he's awful. Like he's not an awful fight, he's just awfully hard. He's like one of the hardest things I've ever fought. It would take me like 1 to 2 weeks of just fighting him to get him down. And once I do, I'll have a video that's like over an hour long. But I've abandoned that video for like over 2 years just because like Sephiroth is so scary in Kingdom Hearts 1.
I mean,
Oh my
what
God.
you expect? You are fighting the one-winged angel himself, the goddamn guy who
You know
just
what?
becomes a god at like during the final boss of Final Fantasy VII.
And like every single person who's no damage him says, yeah, this is like the hardest thing in the entire franchise. Nothing else is harder.
Hey, you know what? You know what will make hey see, you know what will really put you on edge? Playing through the entire story of Yakuza 5, but if you get hit at any point, you have to start from the entire beginning of the story. That would really make you shit your pants.
Oh, I've considered like runs like that, but like every single time I consider that for one of the games, it sounds like the most insane thing. Like doing like a speed run, no damage.
I don't think
Like I mean,
anybody's ever
there's
like
this one guy who like I think he's called Extreme Gameplays who does that for like God of War like 2 and 3, and like he suffered so much in those games. Like he would have to do the entire game no damage, and every time he died, he went all the way back to the beginning. Sometime in the future, when I'm like I've suffered enough, I'll try that out in some of the shorter games. Not Yakuza 5 though, because like the
Yakuza
speed
5.
run for Yakuza 5 is like 10 hours
Yakuza
or like
5.
8. So
Yeah.
so even no damaging that would be like a Herculean task just because of how long the game is.
Exactly. Because the day someone no damages Yakuza 5 Deathmatch 100's Akiyama will be
Like a
the
1K
day.
KO, like 1 hit KO sort of run.
True. No, but the day someone no damages Deathmatch 100's Akiyama is the day I 100% Kenzan. Because that game does not have achievements.
No, Kenzan has an awful 100%. Like it has an in-game like completion
Yeah,
list,
but like
and
I
some of the requirements are awful because like a lot of there's certain mini games that are like entirely reliant on you knowing Japanese, and even if you know Japanese, the reaction times you need to react to those mini games is still absurd. Oh, it's terrible. Like I mean, there's some people who have done it, but like it is a complete crapshoot. Even if you know Japanese.
well, what is your closing thought, Seat?
My closing thought is, hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here. I like video games. I sometimes make videos on video games.
He
What happened to iconic Yagami scream?
Yeah, when
Or like when are you gonna do the weird noises like you usually do?
that's Mora's job, yeah.
I don't know.
That's Mora's
That
job.
is true. I
What?
don't know. It could happen any.
I love how you're trying to scream, but it cuts out. Bro, I heard that. You tried to scream. Let it out, Seat. Seat, scream, bro. Let it all
I
out.
don't think I got it in me.
No, you gotta let it out. People are begging. Get
You gotta increase your aura, man.
Shut the fuck
Shut the
The
fuck up.
viewers are waiting.
the fuck up. Ugh.
We're forcing the demons out of
10
seat
billion
right now.
yen.
We're forcing the demons out of seat right now.
I don't think he has enough still water consumed.
I am Shirano.
Not it. This is not it. This is not it, bro.
Nah. You're gonna try. You gotta like put your heart and soul.
We're gonna have to give everybody give Seat your energy like a fucking spirit bomb. But it's just him
Every
screaming.
viewer.
Yeah, everybody give Seat your energy. Make him scream. Put your hand in the air.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Cuts
So
out.
beautiful.
Wait, everybody, we should all scream as our
It's like
closing.
cut out like an AirPod. That usually happens when I record something with like Apple headphones.
Oh fuck. Well, see,
Then this
thank
is
you
another
for
reason why Apple stinks.
guys.
No
I love
iconic Yagami scream.
the iconic Yagami scream. How'd you even pull that off? Actually, that's a question I wanted to ask. Real
Just
quick.
practice, I guess. I don't
Bro,
know. I
really
just
true.
kept doing it and just like this little like growly scream, just kind of like it's pretty easy to bring up. It's other screams which I struggle more with. I was trying to copy scream.
Like that. Like
I don't
that.
know. I don't know how to like describe it. I got the werewolf scream in me. I don't know. And I think I just tried to copy Werewolf Sonic too much as a kid or something, and it's come back for good this time. But I tried to copy the scream of like one of the final screams, which Guy Seehee in the original Silent Hill 2 dub does, like in a really pivotal scene, and I just can't copy it because I don't know. He's just like using like more his belly to scream. It's a weird thing. I gotta like practice like vocalizing from like below my chest more because I use too much throat
That's
for
crazy.
screaming.
Low key. Okay, well, I guess that pretty much concludes the episode. And before we sign off, everybody gotta scream.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Ah!